15 million members, empowered to learn, to create, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.
Thank you for creating time for us. This is KBC. You're just in time for the lunchtime news. A very warm welcome to the broadcast. My name is Irene Muchuma Odem. On sign language interpretation, we have Lucy Mwaura. Do interact with us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. Now we begin from the county of Samburu. Tension remains high on Longewan area of the region following the death of a widow in a cattle rustling incident Tuesday evening. One person has so far been arrested as security heads in the area continue to call for calm while they hunt down other suspects.
The residents are now living in fear following the Tuesday evening raid that left a widow dead. Even though officers insist they have a suspect in custody, the residents remain skeptical.
Mpaka tuone muuaji na macho yetu. Hata kama atafungwa, hata kama atashtakiwa, kitu tunaambiwa kwamba imeshikwa na hakuna mtu yote ameshuhudia hii Longewan, hatutakubali.
The residents want the government to beef up security, claiming there have been lapses that probably led to the daring attack.
We have been having here issues of insecurity for the last 11 or 15 years. The last 15 years. Just some times back here in Laikipia, watu waliguswa. We saw even helicopters were just surfeiting. Yes. Why not in Samburu?
Sababu hiyo mama marehemu ni familia yetu. Sababu sasa sisi ndio tuliwashwa hiyo misigo ya hiyo watoto. Na sisi hatuna chochote na hiyo mama ndiye anasaidia hiyo watoto. Sasa sisi tutashindwa, tutasaidiana aje? Mimi ni maskini, hiyo watoto ni maskini, tutasaidiana aje?
Hatutakubali kila wakati kutoroka kama watoto, kwani sisi hatuna serikali.
While leading a peace meeting after the raid in a bid to diffuse the tensions, Samburu Central Deputy County Commissioner Titus Mumanyi has assured the residents of security as they continue to hunt for the rest of the remaining gang.
Jana mhalifu mmoja alishikwa na kwa mkono wa serikali na tutamshughulikia kikamilifu. Kwa hivyo hakuna kitu itawachwa bila kuwa punished, atapatikana tu na tutamshughulikia. Wakazi wa hapa pia wameelezwa washirikiane na serikali, kama wameona jambo wanatupasha habari haraka ili tuone njia ya kufikia wahalifu.
John Jacob Curia, Lunchtime News.
Children are more likely to suffer abuse by those closest to them, according to a new report on the state of violence against children by the Department of Child Protection in the Directorate of Children's Services. Children suffer sexual, physical, and emotional abuse from those who are supposed to give them love and care.
Speaking during the launch of the report at Siakago in Embu County, stakeholders said defilement and female genital mutilation were among some of the vices meted against children in local community.
Meona dhuluma mingi hufanyika katika nyumbani. Pia tumepata watoto wenyewe wanadhulumiana physically wa kupigana by bullying, and there are so many cases that have been reported even amongst the girls.
Kumekuwa na kesi ambazo wameweza kupitia katika vituo vya afya na wakati wamefika kule kotini, ule ushahidi ambao unatolewa au kuweza kufika kile kiwango ambacho kinaweza kufanya mtu ambaye amesababisha hicho kitendo aweze kutiwa katika jela ama kuweza kuhukumiwa.
Dr. Werenge Muhindi of the Directorate of Children's Services observed that besides abuse, some children suffer discrimination due to their gender.
Kuna utafiti ulifanywa na kisha ambapo utafiti ulituelezea zile dhuluma ambazo watoto wanapata sana kwa jamii zote Kenya mzima, na ikaonekana kwanza dhuluma za kijinsia ni mingi kwa sana kwa wasichana, na pia dhuluma kwa vijana, ingawaje ni almost the same karibu na zile za wasichana ziko juu.
The stakeholders are now calling upon members of the society to stop child abuse and urged them to join in the Spot It, Stop It campaign that seeks to end violence against children.
Ukiona dhuluma yote kwa mtoto, hufai kugojea kesho. Ukiona ikifanyika, kama ni mwalimu, mzazi kwa barabara, tunafaa kukomesha hiyo kitu na kureport immediately, kwa sababu dhuluma hizi zinaendelea sana, kwa sababu watu huwa hareport either kwa polisi ama to the relevant authorities.
Jacqueline Masharia for Lunchtime News.
Deputy President William Ruto has accused his opponents of plotting the downfall of UDA's Nairobi gubernatorial hopeful Johnson Sakaja. Ruto defended Sakaja's academic credentials, claiming they were above board. While exuding confidence that Sakaja will appear in the ballot and win, Ruto has challenged his opponents to also produce their academic credentials.
Watch. Wacheni kukoroga mambo ya Johnson Sakaja. Watu wa deep state na system wanapiga simu kila mahali. Wamepiga simu mpaka wamefikisha kule State House, kule Uganda, wakitafuta njama ya kusimamisha Sakaja asiwe gavana wa Nairobi. Mimi nataka niwaambie watu wa Jubilee, tukutane kwa debe, wachaneni na Johnson Sakaja. Johnson Sakaja ako na certificate ya kutosha.
Interior and Coordination of National Government Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i has said that his ministry will support IEBC in the forthcoming general election to enable the electoral body conduct free, fair and credible elections. Speaking during the 18th Ambassadors and High Commissioners Forum held at Windsor Golf and Country Club, Matiang'i noted that voter bribery and abuse of social media as one of the key challenge the government was addressing, urging the ambassadors to assure the international community of a conducive business environment during and after the national polls.
I was invited here to address our ambassadors on our preparedness for the general elections, because they're the ones who represent our country in various capitals around the world. And people ask them questions about, what we are doing about these elections. Are we ready? What have we done? And so on. And I've spent time taking them through the preparations we have made to support the IEBC, because we are not the ones who conduct elections. Elections are conducted by the IEBC. We play a supportive role. And I have assured them, as I have assured, the country, that we are ready to play our supportive role. And our supportive role is to enable the IEBC deliver a free, fair and credible election. Again, I outlined the same challenges that I've talked about before. There are cases of voter bribery, there are cases of abuse of social media, which we are dealing with, because we have sufficient institutional frameworks in place to deal with these issues. All we are doing is encouraging our fellow citizens, our brothers and sisters who are political players, to be mindful of the country, to be mindful of the citizens of this country, to keep the peace, to campaign very peacefully and respect, the rule of law. That's all.
Migori County Assembly Budget and Appropriation Committee has refuted claims that the 2021-2022 budget was misappropriated. The committee's chairperson, George Omamba, says the county faced numerous challenges owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, and more funds were directed to the Department of Health to help in combating the spread of the virus. Members of the County Assembly had questioned the misappropriation of funds that saw only 40% of the 2021-2022 budget implemented.
We have pending bills. If you are inside there, you did hear us raise the issue of pending bills. There are, if you budgeted for a project, then at the end of the financial year, the project is not completed, though money committed. It becomes a pending bill, because if it is not captured, then it will be very difficult to get the voter to charge on that project. Part of the reason why we have captured all those pending bills.
A pastoralist is counting losses running into thousands of shillings after a lorry ran over his livestock, killing 21 sheep and goats along the Naivasha-Maimayu Road. During the midday incident near Oasis village, 20 kilometers from Naivasha town, over 50 of the livestock were seriously injured by the trailer, which did not stop. Residents say over 200 animals have been killed on the spot in the last 1 year while seeking water from a nearby dam.
Transport along the busy Naivasha-Maimayu Road was temporarily interrupted as enraged pastoralists moved to collect the carcasses. A herder was driving the herd across the road from the water point when the speeding trailer knocked them down. An eyewitness, Jackson Korinke, said the lorry that was destined for Naivasha from Maimayu was on high speed when it ran over the animals, nearly hitting the lone herder.
Sisi tunaona hiyo ni mbaya kwa sababu hapa iko zebra crossing na hapa kuna maji. Mbuzi yetu na ng'ombe na mali ya watu ya hapa, kila mtu analete mali yake ikuje kunywa maji hapa. Na hapa tumezoea kuvuka nini? Sasa hiyo lori hawa watu wanaenda speed mbaya.
He said that the dam was the only source of water in the area and hundreds of animals relied on it, hence the need to address safety measures.
Hii kondoo ni ya 10,000. Hii kondoo zaidi ya 1,300 imepotea. Kama ile kondoo nyingine 50 yote itaenda kukufa, huyu mtu amepata $500,000 amepoteza. Huyo mtu utapeleka yeye wapi na ana kazi? Ndio kazi yake. Watoto wanategemea waende shule.
Meanwhile, the Road Safety Association of Kenya has expressed concern over accidents involving public service vehicles, which account for most fatalities. The association chairman, David Kiarie, attributed to accidents to speeding and reckless driving.
You can see there is a lot of loose chips on the road. Drivers must be very careful. And any driver, you should know when you get to a new road, a road you don't really know, even if you know, you have to be very careful.
He was speaking at Kanyonyo in Kitui County, where 18 people perished in 2 accidents. Beatrice Getonyingetich, Lunchtime News.
The government will set up a dignity at work policy aimed at transforming systems and attitude of public servants. State Department for Public Service Principal Secretary Mary Kimonye also says members of the public will be given an opportunity to audit government services. This as she was speaking during the African Public Service Day. Kimonye urged public servants to ensure they give services that cultivate trust among citizens.
To transform the human resource, you need the right policies in place. And therefore, we have started looking at our policies. And one of the policies we have developed to help in that area, and also to answer a very important question which was asked here about how we treat members of the public, is a policy on dignity at work. We are calling it the Dignity at Work policy. The Dignity at Work policy speaks to the environment of receiving and giving services, where we are saying the Kenyan citizens have a right to receive services in a friendly, welcoming, and dignified environment. And therefore, the public servant has the responsibility to make the service environment a dignified ecosystem. And that the government has a responsibility, civic duty, to open itself for scrutiny by members of the public. So we are telling every single servant, public servant, that you have the moral and civic responsibility to make this country better, and the only way you can make it better is if you deliver services to the public with honor and with dignity.
The review of the public debt ceiling to 10 trillion shillings by the National Assembly a week ago continues to draw reactions from the political circles. While debating the motion, legislators in both houses remain divided on the rise, pitting lawmakers allied to the Azimio faction against those of Kenya Kwanza. KBC's Kamche Menza spoke to experts who say the next government has very slim options in financing its budget and cannot avoid borrowing.
Mr. Speaker, sir. As the debate on the proposed upward review of the public debt ceiling continues to rage, with political factions holding varied opinions, experts opine that the move may be justified. Professor XN Iraki, an economist, says the country has been running on budget deficits yearly and can only depend on borrowing or raising taxes for its citizens.
The government is torn between increasing taxes or borrowing from outside or internally. As a politician, you are better off borrowing money because you don't annoy a lot of voters. If you ask a person on the streets who is going to pay that debt, he will say somebody, but we don't know who it is. But when you have taxes, it impacts you immediately. That is why politicians prefer to borrow. They can even pass that to the next government.
Professor Iraki says that cutting down on wastage and corruption will be the best alternative for Kenya in managing debt and ensuring sustained development. But this has been unachievable for many political leaders.
It might mean losing some jobs. And who want to be the president and sack some government officials? It's very sensitive, whether at a county or national level. So in my opinion, the debate on debt is going to continue. I see the Senate passing the debt ceiling, supporting it.
While proposals have been fronted to have capital projects cut down, experts say that may be a challenge.
Some of those contracts have already been negotiated. They may be taking 5-10 years long term. So you cannot come and stop a project halfway when it's incomplete. In fact, it's even more expensive for the Kenyan Mwananchi.
It's something we have to do out of necessity to save the budget for this year, to save the generations to come, to ensure that the new administration can have a budget that they can implement.
However much you try to cook GDP on NPV terms at 55%, we would still be below the 9 trillion debt that we have today, Honorable Speaker.
If we don't increase the debt to by 1 trillion, because we're only increasing by 1, we might fall short of repayments, and the economic impact of that is of greater magnitude.
But when the issue of public debt ceiling will come up, Madam Speaker, I will still continue to vote no, because I think as a country we must be disciplined.
Experts, however, maintain that debt is inevitable but ought to be sustainable.
So what we need to start doing from now, from August 2022, to start looking at our projects more intensely and say these are the projects we can afford with the current money that we are raising from tax, so that we stop borrowing and focus on living within our means. As a politician, that's not easy because there are so many interests you have to satisfy.
Senate is yet to vote on the motion.
Now, over 200 youths in Nyeri County have received training on e-commerce, trading online, cyber security, and how to market their services. The two-day training that was held at Karunda's Catholic Vocational Training Center, Kieni East Sub-County, was organized by South-to-South Dialogues with the support of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China. The South-to-South Dialogues Chief Executive Officer Stephen Degwa said the training was a pilot project targeting the vulnerable people in the society like the youth, and promised to roll out other projects in the near future. The project has also been seen as a way of strengthening the China-Kenya friendship. The beneficiaries, led by James Ndungu, lauded the move, terming it as a source of self-employment.
So we would like to thank this institution for allowing us to mobilize the youth around to come and get the skills. We have taught them e-commerce, we have shown them trading, we have told them about cybersecurity, and a few other digital, topics to make them aware of the confines and the opportunities also. This is the first one, it's a pilot project. We are happy with the success, and we hope that we can replicate.
I would urge young people outside there to be cooperative, wakuwa wakijoin wanasoma. Then on the south to south dialogue, so we are much grateful, and it's the last time to come, so we welcome you again.
Music Copyright Society of Kenya has warned against the use of copyright music during campaigns. Music Copyright Society of Kenya Chief Executive Officer Dr. Ezekiel Mtua stated that it is unfair for politicians to use artistic compositions without paying for them.
Speaking during the national awareness campaign to sensitize the police and users of copyrighted musical works at Masii in Mwala, Machakos County, Music Copyright Society of Kenya raised concerns over use of artists' work without any remuneration as unfair and unethical.
Invoices wanasiasa wote ambao wanatumia muziki wakati huu wa campaigns inatakiwa kuwa windfall, inatakiwa wakati mzuri sana kwa wanamuziki, kwa maana nyimbo zao zinatumiwa. Unaona watu wanapita na magari hapa yanasema hatupangwi, yanaimba nobody can stop reggae. Hizo nyimbo zinazoimbwa inatakiwa wawe wamepata license, kwa maana ni za wanamuziki. Hata zile international tuko na bilateral agreements na wao.
Mutua said the music industry is one of the most lucrative businesses with the potential of creating jobs and wealth for artists, adding that it can only be achieved with proper enforcement of compliance with the Copyright Act.
Tuanze uhusiano mzuri wa kulicense, kwa maana na wao wanamuziki wanahitaji pesa yao. Kama vile Madam Subi amesema, wanamuziki wamechangia kutufurahisha, na inasikitisha sana wengi wao wakikufa wakiwa masikini. Mwanamuziki anasikia wimbo wao unaimbwa kwenye hoteli, unaimbwa kwenye matatu, hata kwa bodaboda, lakini hana kitu kwa mfuko. Na hiyo ndio kazi yake, ndio taaluma yake.
Dr. Mutua lauded Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutiambai for his directive to give support to licensing officers during the copyright enforcement exercise, noting that it granted a boost in the quest to raise the current compliance level, which is currently below 10%.
The Principal Secretary for Higher Education, Simon Nabukwesi, has given contractors 96 hours to complete the competence-based curriculum classrooms in 9 schools within Kabuchai constituency in Bungoma County. The PS saying that those who fail to do so will be blacklisted from any government contracts.
Contractors working on the competence-based curriculum classes within Kabuchai constituency in Bungoma County have been put on notice over incomplete works. The Principal Secretary for Higher Education, Simon Nabukwesi, says that some contractors took up more schools than they could manage, a situation that has led to delays.
There are very many contractors here in this region who have not completed their work. Some of them took, or rather bit more than they could swallow. Like there is one who took 9 schools to build classrooms, and he has failed in all the 9. So that is a big miscalculation in terms of business.
Nabukwesi saying that failure to complete the works before the end of the week would see them blacklisted from government contracts.
We shall get other contractors to take over, and what they invested in those classrooms will be lost completely. Again, we are also recommending that such contractors be blacklisted so that they will not do anything in a government institution, and they will not do anything where government wants to subcontract or to contract.
Nancy Okware, Lunchtime News.
The government, through National Government Administration Officers NGAO structure, has begun an ambitious drive to mainstream a culture of integrity and civic responsibility from the grassroots. More of this in our county news wrap.
Central Region.
Speaking at Embakasi APTC during the opening of a 5-week paramilitary training for 451 assistant county commissioners from across the country, Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Karanja Kibicho pointed out that bribery and favor-seeking were some of the factors affecting service delivery. The PS claimed the state will train all its administrators to lead a charge in resetting this mindset in the areas of jurisdiction.
Without any protocols, because you are there to serve him. Give service to our people, because he has committed to give certain services to these people during his tenure, and he can only do that through you, and that is why he has a direct link to you, even though he has us to be doing day-to-day activities.
Elsewhere, casual workers at the Isiolo County government have down their tools over delayed payment of salaries. According to the workers, some have not been paid their salaries for more than 2 years now.
Serikali inajua wako na haki ya kutulipa sisi kama wafanyikazi mishahara. Ndiposa maana tunaambia kuti governor aweze kusikia ikilia leo. Tumeumia. Wengine wamefungiwa manyumba, watoto wengine wasomi wamekuwa chokola, na sisi ni wafanyikazi wa county ya Isiolo.
Meanwhile, detectives in Kericho have arrested 2 swindlers who have allegedly been fleecing unsuspecting parents of learners in primary and secondary schools thousands of shillings through fraud schemes. According to Kericho East OCPD Caleb Wesa, the suspect's main mode of operation was to pretend to be employees of a particular school a parent has a child in.
They used during the operations. My appeal to the members of public is that let them be vigilant. I've given them our numbers, let them be vigilant and be able to report to us anytime they suspect that there are criminals in our midst.
Elsewhere, a family in Malindi has finally received the body of their 22-year-old kin who died under mysterious circumstances while working as a house help in the Middle East 3 months ago. The late Selina Kazungu's body was flown to Malindi in the evening, where it was received by family members at the Malindi International Airport. Selina is said to have died on March 17th, and the family has been fighting to have her body brought back home for burial.
You're watching the Lunchtime News. We do appreciate your company. Also on our social media platforms, quick acknowledgements. Kaniki, you're watching KBC Channel 1 from the county of Mombasa, and Jayden Wangui, you're watching KBC Channel 1 from the county of Nairobi. We're taking a short commercial break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
The World Blood Donor Day is celebrated every year on the 14th of June. This year's theme is donating blood as a sign of solidarity. This event will be held at Olkalau in Nyandarua County and will be presided over by Mutai Kagwe, the CS of Health. Safe blood transfusions are critical aspects of care and public health, and there is need for a consistent blood bank in Kenya, as there is someone who needs blood every 2 seconds. You are encouraged to regularly and voluntarily donate blood in order to address the current shortage. Help save lives by donating blood.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723 892 654 or 0734 780 124.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Narok County Commissioner Isaac Masinde has asked the over 400 Tanzanians seeking refuge at Olposimoru area, Narok County, along the common Kenya-Tanzania border to adhere to the laws of the country. Masinde said the Tanzanian nationals were received in Kenya on humanitarian grounds, as most of them had deep injuries that needed immediate medical attention after clashes in their country. Politicians have been urged not to incite them, but instead follow the right procedures in resolving their eviction.
Commissioner Masinde said 212 patients have been treated in various hospitals in Kenya since they came in the country a week ago. Masinde, who spoke from his office, said the Tanzania government has its own laws and was best placed to resolve the issue at hand, asking the affected people to send representatives to speak on their behalf and resolve the issues amicably.
For those ones who are here, they must make sure that they follow our laws while here. Let them ensure that they don't come with arms, including arrows, pangas, and whatever, into our country. We have placed our security officers at the border to ensure that only genuine victims who need assistance are allowed.
At the same time, the commissioner called on politicians to keep off from inciting the victims, but instead challenged them to use the right channel, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to address their issues.
Kenya has got a channel of dealing with the issues concerning our neighbors. We have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let them, if they have any issue, let the politicians channel it through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let them not interfere, incite, because it will not assist. It will worsen even the situation.
At Olposimoru area in Narok South Sub-County, the hundreds of Tanzanians are camping on the ground with a number of women lamenting that they are yet to trace their children.
More than 50 children are missing since they started shooting and using live bullets, killing people. Many children fled into the wilderness, and a lot of them have not been found to date.
Ni jana tu ndio tumeanza kupata chakula. Tunakaa msituni. Hata kuna wengine saisi wenye wako msituni. Wase walali nyumbani. Wanakaa msituni.
They are now calling on the international community to intervene.
Kwamba tu serikali watusaidie, atupee chakula pamoja na nguo, na pia hawa watu wa Tanzania wapate matibabu, kwa sababu ile kitu muhimu sana ni matibabu.
Edwin Austin for Lunchtime News.
KBC County Commissioner Alan Mashari has issued a stern warning to politicians using the youth to perpetrate violence. The administrator at the same time said an incident in which crude weapons, including machetes, were recovered in a bush was under investigation. Speaking during a stakeholders conference on peaceful elections, Mashari castigated politicians who were allegedly buying weapons for the youth, saying it was a matter of time before they faced the law. Mashari also appealed to members of the public to volunteer information and assured of confidentiality by the relevant authorities.
Tumehakikisha ya kwamba kila mmoja yetu katika stakeholder ako na jukumu yake ya kufanya ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba uchaguzi ni wa uhuru na haki na hauna tisho. Kwa hivyo vijana wetu tumesema tutawaongelesha wahakikishe ya kwamba hawatumiwi kuheko ama kuzuia mtu mwingine kufanya siasa kwa pahali pengine.
We have agreed that we should embrace at the grassroots level, embrace mediation, arbitration, so that these problems can be solved at the grassroots before they emanate up here. And then from there, the security agencies will have nothing left for them. And hence we'll have peaceful elections.
Kajiado youths today formed a caucus to rally support for presidential aspirant Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua in an effort to strengthen the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance support base. The hundreds of youths across the 5 sub-counties who converged at the KCB grounds in Kajiado said the Azimio la Umoja manifesto means well for them and the country.
Speaking at the KCB grounds in Kajiado during a political rally, the ODM Secretariat and Youth Caucus endorsed Governor Joseph Ole Lenku, who is seeking re-election in the August polls. They said the youth inclusion in government through job opportunities and the formation of a youth empowerment policy bill that was approved by the County Assembly has greatly boosted youth leadership. They added that they will educate members of the public on the Azimio la Umoja manifesto in order to enhance understanding that will be more meaningful in rallying support for the electorate. Ole Lenku, who spoke after receiving the endorsement, lauded the youth, saying he is committed to uniting communities that reside in Kajiado County. He drummed up support for Raila Odinga, who he described as a liberator this country needed, urging the residents to support his candidature.
Transport operators in Naivasha are threatening to hike fares by 25% to cater for increased fuel prices. The operators lament that the increase in fuel prices has had devastating effects on their operations, and they have been left with no option but to pass the burden to commuters. Stephen Mungai, the chairman of the Matatu operators in Naivasha, says the high cost of operations has forced them and investors in the sector to pull out their vehicles from the road.
Kila mwezi mafuta yanapanda, na uhakika sisi hatujawahi kuongeza bei ya magari zetu kutoka wakati ya COVID, na inajulikana vizuri sana. Watu wamekuwa wamefinyika, na hiyo ndio ilifanya sana tusije tukaongeza bei ya magari. Lakini kwa wakati hii tumefinyika zaidi mpaka tumefika kwa ukuta. Tumeamua tuongeze ili at least kutoka hapa kwenda Nairobi iwe ni shilingi 250.
Mali tulikuwa tunaweka mafuta ya 100, sasa hizi ni 200. Lita moja ukiweka 200 ndio inajaa lita moja. Ukitoka hapa ukifika kwingine ukirudi mafuta imeisha. Kwa hivyo hatuna risiki. Tunaomba
yenye nauza hapa mayai tulikuwa tunanunua 280, sasa hivi tunanunua 400. So unakuta ile mayai kuuzia customer mwambie 30 bob imekuwa ngumu.
Well, time for Channel 1 Business News. Engineers are urging the Engineers Board of Kenya to join and ratify the Washington Accord on Engineering. They say this will help create mobility and international recognition for Kenyan engineers. The Institute of Engineers of Kenya says the move will also make engineering programs accredited by the board and get international recognition. The more than 1,500 engineers attending the Engineering Partnership Symposium in Mombasa are also lobbying the government to set aside 0.5% of the infrastructure budget for the training of local engineers. EBK Chair Erastus Mongera has said the board is in the process of harmonizing licensing fees for engineers to make them conform to the international standards.
You know, we have East Africa community, and as professionals, we have come together and signed what we call mutual recognition agreement. That agreement enables engineers, those who are the Kenyan engineers, will go to Uganda and automatically get registration in those countries and tender for jobs there and get. But when you look at their laws, they are very restricting. For example, that you pay for that membership and you are paying for it here. Whether you are getting a job there or not, you pay for membership. So that is very expensive. We are racing to see how we can harmonize further so that when you pay in this country, then you don't have to pay elsewhere. And number two, you find different countries have restrictions where they say, for example, for you to get a job, you must, this company must have 51% ownership by the local company. We are also discussing that to see, because you are now as a profession, you are now subjecting me to restrictions which I have no control of.
Google has announced 1,000 scholarships for small and medium-sized businesses in Kenya. The training will help SMEs open online shops in order to market their products and services. Under the training, entrepreneurs would be equipped with digital marketing skills to boost their ventures. Google Director for Kenya and East Africa, Agnes Gathaiya, has said the e-commerce market in Kenya has grown by 40% in 2021 with the potential to expand further.
Kenya's micro, small and medium enterprises contribute approximately 40% of the country's wealth, with the majority falling in the informal sector. The sector accounts for 80% of all jobs in the country, making them a critical cog in Kenya's business scene. However, most SMEs are yet to embrace online trading, which is growing by leaps and bounds globally. To help upskill their online trading skills, Google has launched a training program targeting 1,000 SMEs in the country. The initiatives include a 1-hour virtual training event dubbed Shopping Small Business Summit, aimed at helping SMB owners develop skills and tools to compete online. Agnes Gathaiya, Google's country director for Kenya and East Africa, stated that the company's collaboration with Coursera, an open online course provider, will result in the development of an online career certificate course in digital marketing and e-commerce. The training will help business owners learn how to harness online tools meant to spur growth for them. The tech firm also unveiled a Local Opportunity Finder, a new tool that evaluates different Google business profiles and gives recommendations on how a business owner may improve their profile appearances in the Google search. Furthermore, Hustle Academy, another platform that provides key skills for growth to small and medium-sized retail businesses, will be available to traders as part of their initiatives. Nduta Mokami for Lunchtime News.
Kenyans in diaspora are opting to remit money through informal means due to the high cash transfer costs. European Union Deputy Head Katrin Hedgeman says despite a 20.4% increase in diaspora remittances, major gaps in cash transfer are dragging its contribution to the economy.
Based on the lessons from the COVID-19 crisis, there's a unique opportunity to draw a new consensus on remittance actions to address the long-standing issue in complex environments. The day calls upon upon governments, private sector entities, as well as civil society to find ways to maximize the impact of remittances through individual and/or collective action.
Promote faster, safer, and cheaper transfer of remittances and foster financial inclusion of migrants. So that's written into the fabric of the Global Compact.
There are lots of other channels that we have not necessarily looked at that will move money away from the informal way and to the formal way, but also more importantly reduce the cost so that people don't feel the need to go through informal means to send money, because there are a lot of risks with sending money informally.
Conservationists in Laikipia have begun the mechanical removal of an invasive Opuntia cactus, which has occupied about 80% of grazing land for livestock and wildlife. Known to some farmers as the devil cactus, the invasive plant, which depletes soil fertility and water resources and reduces the diversity of plants and animals, has invaded of more than 500 square kilometers in the county.
Opuntia, commonly called prickly pear, is one of the most widespread and naturalized plants in the arid and semi-arid areas of Kenya, with extreme effects on rural livelihoods and the environment. Prickly pear was first introduced to Laikipia in the 1970s as an ornamental living wall during the colonial era. Unknown to the residents then, Opuntia cactus is a fast-growing cactus that has occupied the land and is poisonous to animals.
A lot of the invasive plant species, especially of the Opuntia family, were brought in as ornamental plants. Actually, if you go to Doldol, as far back as 1946, the Opuntia stricta was planted by the district officer around there as a hedge plant around the house.
According to the Center for Agriculture and Bioscience International, the plant, known by some farmers as the devil's cactus, has been linked to livestock deaths, reduced forage, interference with grazing practices, increased cost of management, and reduced livestock yields.
It simply means that the herbivores, that is wildlife and cattle, don't have grazing material to survive. It also means that the invasive species, being morphological, it has a lot of spines, and that pricks or it injures the wildlife and the cattle that come across those areas.
Conservationists and farmers in the affected areas have opted for mechanical removal of the invasive Opuntia cactus, whose seeds are spread by birds and animals such as elephants and baboons. The removal involves digging out the cactus completely, allowing it to decompose, then burying it in deep pits in order to completely kill the plant.
To ensure that there is little entry of air, and slowly and naturally that cactus rots, and that area is ridden off the Opuntia engelomani. The second strategy is use of biological control.
Conservationists and farmers believe that this will stem the spread of the invasive plant that for years has posed a threat to their livelihoods. Regina Manyara reporting for Lunchtime News.
The Retirement Benefit Authority is opening service offices in 8 regions to bring its service closer to Kenyans. Retirement Benefit Authority Chief Manager Ann Mugo says they will be rolling out 35 companies with schemes targeting the informal sector.
Speaking during the opening of an operational office at the Huduma Center in Mombasa, Retirement Benefit Authority Chief Manager Market Conduct Ann Mugo said expansion plans to 8 regions are underway, as these will enable all Kenyans to access retirement services conveniently. Mugo says Mombasa is the first beneficiary of the program to devolve their services and conveniently serve their clients. She is encouraging Kenyans to save for retirement to grow savings that are currently at 1.5 trillion shillings, with the RBA keen to grow it to 2.4 trillion shillings by the year 2024.
Initially, we intend to do this only at the regional Huduma centers. There are 8 of them, the former district headquarters, but eventually after that we shall reach the other Huduma centers as well. One of the initiatives we have rolled out recently is to reach out to the informal sector. I have here with me a list which we shall be availing to the Wananchi of 35 companies that have schemes set up for you as Mwananchi. You can just walk through their door and go and register an account for yourself. So you do not have to be employed by somebody.
Elsewhere in Kisii, fish farmers have received 25,000 tilapia fingerlings from Micro Enterprises Support Program Trust in efforts to boost food security and tackle unemployment. Officials are urging farmers to adhere to experts' directives in order to realize the fruits of the project and offer decent jobs to a number of residents.
We are supporting farmers in the aquaculture value chain in Kisii, and generally the aim is supporting them to access markets, then again also helping farmers so that they get meaningful and decent employment.
Because they have come and delivered 25,000 fingerings, monosex, tilapia, to a group in Nyaribari Chache, who we've been preparing and ready for reception of the fingerings to do fish farming in our county.
Reporting for Lunchtime News, I am Teresa Mutai.
In Zambia are feeling the pressure of the rising prices of fertilizer and fuel as the prolonged conflict between the world's 2 biggest grain and energy exporters continues to affect global food security. The scarcity combined with rocketing prices has pushed many less developed countries in Africa into food shortages and insecurity. Here now are the details of the story and much more from across the continent.
Fertilizer in Zambia has been on an upswing over the past few months due to price hikes in the international market and shipping charges. The price of a 50-kilogram bag of synthetic fertilizer has doubled. Rising prices of fuel have driven the cost of mechanized farming, causing some farmers off the land to find other ways of living and posing a threat to Zambia's food security. A local agricultural expert says replacing synthetic fertilizers with organic materials, such as livestock manure, as well as roots and leaves of plants, will help tackle the soaring costs. Meanwhile, digital farms operating in Tanzania may have to start paying 2% tax by July this year. Tanzania's Finance and Planning Minister made the proposed tax official during the annual budget presentation to the parliament. The announcement follows discussion in April between the Tanzania Revenue Authority and the US giant Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. The Tanzania Revenue Authority will establish a simplified registration process for digital economy operators who do not have a presence in Tanzania. Many countries have introduced such taxes, believing that digital companies making profits in the countries should also pay taxes there. Finally, Egypt and Israel have signed a deal to increase liquefied natural gas sales to European countries, which aims to reduce dependence on supply from Russia. The deal comes as the European Union has had difficulty banning Russian fossil fuel imports in retaliation for the war in Ukraine. The three signed a memorandum of understanding for natural gas delivery from Israel to Egypt, liquefying of the gas, and transporting it to the European Union. The Israeli gas will be brought via a pipeline to Egypt's LNG terminal on the Mediterranean before being transported to the tankers in the European shores.
The U.S. Central Bank has announced its biggest interest rate rise in nearly 30 years as it ramps up its fight to rein in soaring consumer prices. The Federal Reserve said it would increase its key interest rates by 0.75 of a percentage point to a range of 1.5% to 1.75%. The rise, the third since March, comes after inflation in the U.S. surged unexpectedly last month. Here now are the details of this and more across the globe.
More interest rate hikes are expected in the US, adding to the uncertainty facing the economy. Forecast released after the meeting showed officials expect the rate the Fed charges banks to borrow could reach 3.4% by the end of the year. The moves rippling out the public in the form of higher borrowing costs for mortgages, credit cards, and other loans. As central banks around the world take similar steps, it marks a massive change for the global economy, where businesses and households have enjoyed years of low borrowing costs. The last time the Fed announced a rate hike of this magnitude was in 1994. Meanwhile, Australia's energy minister has urged households in the New South Wales, a state that includes the country's biggest city, Sydney, to switch off their lights in the face of an energy crisis. Chris Bowen says people should not use electricity for 2 hours every evening if they have a choice. This comes after Australia's main wholesale electricity market was suspended because of a surge in prices. Bowen asked people living in the South Wales to conserve as much power as possible. Australia is one of the world's biggest exporters of coal and liquefied natural gas, but has been struggling with a power crisis since last month. In recent weeks, Australia has felt the impact of disruptions to coal supplies and soaring global energy prices. Finally, ministers from more than 100 countries are meeting at the Global Trade Watchdog's headquarters in Geneva this week for the first time in more than 4 years to thrash out new trade rules, a feat many doubt in an era of high geopolitical tension. All-night negotiation at the World Trade Organization aimed at clinching deals on food security, fishing, and vaccines paused around dawn on Thursday with no immediate sign that efforts to overcome Indian opposition had succeeded. There have been growing doubts that tough bargaining could deliver deals in the face of Indian intransigence. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.
Time for Channel 1 Sports. Let's Play. Quickmart has been named the exclusive official retail partner for the WRC Safari Rally. The sponsorship package will also see Quickmart sponsor Kenya's trailblazing female rally driver Maxine Wahome and FIA junior WRC contender Makure Kimathi. At 26 years old, Maxine Wahome already has nearly 10 years of experience in motorsports, having started on the autocross autocross track at a young age and making her rallying debut at the 2021 WRC Safari Rally event in Naivasha. This year, the 5th edition of the WRC circuit is expected to attract over 50 local and international drivers. Champions Manchester City will travel to West Ham on the opening weekend of a 2022-2023 Premier League campaign that will include a mid-season break for the World Cup in Qatar. The World Cup starts on the 21st of November, with the final being played on the 18th of December.
Because of the World Cup, the first fixture takes place on Friday, 5th August, when Crystal Palace hosts Arsenal. Liverpool play at promoted Fulham, with Nottingham Forest at Newcastle. The World Cup, which will feature both England and Wales, starts on 21st of November. The final is on 8th December, 8 days before the Premier League season resumes, and 6 weeks. The 2022-2023 season has been adjusted to accommodate the World Cup, which takes place in the middle of the domestic calendar.
Thank you for your time. We have come to the end of Channel 1 Lunchtime News. For more details on just add items and many more, do log on to www.kbc.co.ke. On behalf of the entire team, thank you for keeping it KBC Channel 1. My name is Irene Muchuma Udim. On sign language interpretation, we have Lucy Mwaura. God bless you.
There's still time. Take this girl back to Green Hill before our father returns.
When father returns, I'll talk to him and break off the engagement.
And you're now in love with another woman from Green Hill? Throw her down the void hole.
Yes.
Mercy, my king, my king.
You just stop right now.
That's not ordinary lightning. It's lightning that's intended to be used in trials. To not withstand it would mean death.
Seems being the prince isn't a blessing, but a misfortune.
This is The Breakdown, going beyond the headlines. I'm Shiro Morioki. As the world hopes for an end to the COVID-19 pandemic, yet another potential public health crisis threatens to rear its head. Monkeypox, which was first observed in Central Africa, has now been identified in several countries around the world. What does this mean, and should we be worried?
We are seeing a concerning trend in the virus now appearing in non-endemic countries.
The world has hit an unfortunate milestone this month, with the total number of people displaced by conflicts hitting 100 million for the first time ever. What does this mean, and how can countries respond to this crisis? We also look at the misinformation spreading online ahead of Kenya's presidential election. What does this mean for Kenya's democracy? We'll find out. Welcome to the program. The world is currently on high alert over the monkeypox outbreak in regions considered non-endemic. However, Central and West Africa are not new to this. So how is the continent responding to this public health concern? Are governments prepared for another possible infectious disease outbreak? The BBC's Akisa Wandera explains.
Since May 7th, when the first monkeypox case was reported in London, the numbers have been on the rise, not just in the United Kingdom, but in other countries in Europe and in the United States of America, regions not endemic to the monkeypox virus. So which countries currently have active monkeypox cases? According to the World Health Organization, as of the 26th of May, 23 non-endemic countries reported 257 cases and 120 suspected cases. The United Kingdom is leading in numbers with 106 confirmed cases, followed by Portugal, Canada, Spain, Netherlands, France, Germany, Italy, and Belgium, which has 3 cases. The United States has also reported 10 cases in 8 states.
There is a chance for further spread, being an infectious disease. However, monkeypox typically does not spread easily between people. It requires close physical contact.
Now, the virus is endemic in parts of West and Central Africa. Most recent outbreaks in the continent were in Cameroon, Nigeria, and the Central African Republic, which occurred in 2018, 2017, and 2016, respectively.
We've seen countries build their capacities, reinforce their capacities for detection, for investigation and response. We have seen communities being sensitized in those countries, so it's not something new.
Affected countries are now moving fast to curb the spread of the virus. Belgium became the first country to come up with a mandatory 21-day quarantine for monkeypox patients. The European Union CDC has recommended that EU member states review the availability of smallpox vaccines.
There is a new generation vaccine that has been approved for smallpox and monkeypox, and there are some small quantities of stockpiles in a few countries under the national authorities, and there is need to work with those countries where the stockpiles are to ensure the necessary guidance is provided.
So what's the situation like in Africa? 5 countries which are endemic to the virus have reported active cases between January and May this year. Statistics from the World Health Organization show the 5 countries, Cameroon, Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, and the Republic of Congo, have cumulatively reported 1,365 cases and 69 deaths. The rest of the continent remains on high alert, even as the Africa CDC urges countries to enhance surveillance and testing.
Leadership also in terms of ensuring the necessary resources are available domestically to support the surveillance systems, building response capacities in the countries is extremely important, and really to heighten the alert.
Now, the Africa Center for Disease Control has urged anyone with symptoms such as blister-like lesions at the onset of the monkeypox disease to quickly seek medical assistance.
Much like with COVID-19, the spread of monkeypox has led to a host of misinformation emerging on social media on how and why the outbreak began. The latest outbreak has now led to erroneous theories that the outbreaks were planned and man-made, creating stigma and discrimination. I'm now joined by Dr. Gama Bandawe, a virologist. Is monkeypox the same as shingles or chickenpox?
So the answer to that is no. These are very different viruses. The shingles or chickenpox virus